She didn't slam the door. That would have meant she felt something. No, she just walked out heels. Precise blouse, pressed like our bodies, hadn't just overlapped in a room that smelled more like corporate stress than chemistry. I stayed seated on the edge of the bed, shirt half untucked, sweat cooling into regret. She'd left behind her conference badge on the table and 6 words that made something in me calcify. You're good at what you do. Stay there. That was her answer to my question, the one I hadn't finished asking. About the promotion, about recognition, about not being invisible anymore. Madeline Hart didn't need to finish things. She just moved past them. I used to find that efficient. Now I knew better. I stood up, grabbed my laptop from my bag, and sat at the desk. Didn't think, just opened it. Fingers on autopilot, I navigated through a folder I hadn't touched in over a year. Old infra, legacy, drafts. Inside was the original schematic. The one I built before anyone even believed the platform could scale. Every function name, every subroutine was mine. Madeline had pitched it last quarter as a modular backbone for distributed execution. She had said those words on stage at a Toronto Tech Summit with her signature red blazer and that perfect posture. Not one mention of me. I remember watching the live stream from my apartment heating up leftover Thai food. She gestured at the diagram behind her. My diagram. Even my typo in the annotation failover spelled failvor. I had laughed bitterly. Then I closed the laptop and didn't open it again for weeks. But now it was all right there. The code, the commit logs, the missed chances. And one other thing. In a dusty subfolder called Patents Unfiled, I found a draft application for dynamic task orchestration in containerized environments. Inventor Nathan Cole. Signature field empty. I'd written the damn thing after an architecture offsite, thinking I'd send it in Monday. Madeline talked me out of it. Let legal handle this. Personal claims just complicate things, she'd said, sipping from a branded coffee tumbler, while I sat across her with bags under my eyes and a code base that barely compiled. So I didn't sign, didn't send. Now, looking at the file, I realized something I hadn't dared admit. She never needed me to succeed, just to stay quiet until she did. I closed the folder slowly. My hands didn't shake. They were too tired for that. Instead, I reached into my backpack and took out a silver pen engraved with "Build What Matters." A goodbye gift from a dev who left when culture alignment became code for cut the quiet ones. I didn't jot anything down, just turned the pen over in my fingers. The question wasn't whether I'd been used. It was whether I'd let them get away with it. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of guilt, not even anger. Just calculations. Quiet ones. How much I'd built. How much they'd taken. How long I'd let them. I kept opening old folders, healed old commits, each one a breadcrumb to a version of me that still believed in team credits and performance reviews. It felt like reading someone else's diary, one written by a younger, dumber me. By morning, the numbness had settled into something sharper. Not rage, clarity. They hadn't broken me in one blow. They wore me down by inches. And I let them. Until now. They didn't even spell my name right. That was the first time I was mentioned in the company newsletter. Nathan Cole contributed back-end support for the July deploy. 2 typos in 1 sentence. I read it 3 times hoping my screen would auto-correct reality. It didn't. That same week, Madeline presented at a global tech panel. Title slide, Next Gen Orchestration, the Hart Method. I had built the method. Every shard of it. From the zero latency fallback to the self-healing mesh, all of it came from my weekends. From post-it notes stuck to cheap drywall in a rental apartment I barely afforded. I used to send her code summaries over Slack. Not because she asked, because she never understood half of it, and I thought helping was part of the job. she'd reply with then copy-paste my notes into pitch decks. At first I didn't mind. We were a team. She said that often, smiling with her eyes but never her mouth. Then came the offsites, the investor dinners. She stopped tagging me in change logs, stopped forwarding my bug fix logs. Slowly, I disappeared from our own product's history. No one noticed. My workstation didn't have a door, just a sliding divider between two storage alcoves that used to hold filing cabinets. The air conditioning didn't reach here properly, so in the summer, it was hot enough to fry logic boards. In winter, I wore fingerless gloves like a coder cliché. I stopped asking for a proper desk after the third ignored request. HR told me it's a dynamic workspace model. You're trusted to own your zone. My zone had no chair with lumbar support. It didn't matter. I wasn't supposed to be seen just productive. Most of the dev team worked upstairs, open plan kombucha taps board games. I was the anomaly. They called me root level like it was a compliment, not an exile. Only Madeline ever came down here, sometimes to drop off annotated code snippets she didn't understand, other times to ask about a bug in the deployment script. Always brief, always late in the day. One afternoon, she came by holding her phone in one hand and a half-eaten protein bar in the other. "Nathan, I need you to look into the anomaly reports from the health monitor. Don't escalate, just patch." No hello. No thanks. I just nodded. 3 hours later, she posted a screenshot of the fixed dashboard in a company-wide Slack with the caption, "Crisis averted. Heart framework never fails." The comments were full of emojis and claps. Not one tagged me. I didn't bother reacting. The system didn't break. But I did a little. When we entered Series B mode, everyone walked around like they were already rich. New monitors showed up unannounced. Someone installed a foosball table. And yet, I still had to run my tests using the free tier of my personal cloud credits. Madeline wanted proof our system could handle 10 million concurrent calls. I worked 3 nights straight. No request was too nested. No API call too expensive. I built synthetic data, stress-tested with edge cases, and annotated every result. The charts were beautiful, honest, brutal, and they told a story of resilience in chaos. I sent them to her with a short note. Benchmark complete. Reproducible. I recommend keeping the notes intact for transparency. She replied 3 days later. Love this. We'll simplify slightly for the deck. Great work. Simplify turned out to mean strip out all context, inflate the y-axis to make the bars look bigger, and label the dataset HeartTech validation layer. I found the modified slide during an impromptu walkthrough with the investor relations lead. He was showing it to 2 visiting VCs. One of them said, "It's impressive. Who handled the architecture?" The IR guy replied, "Madeline built the original foundation. Of course she has a strong team. I was standing 5 feet away. They didn't even glance at me." That night, I emailed Madeline. Just 1 sentence. "Would you consider adjusting the attribution on slide 12? She responded. At this stage, it's about clarity. Don't let formality get in the way of growth. And just like that, my work had a new author. The Monday meeting was held in a side room near legal. That alone told me something was off. Eliza from HR was already seated, folder open, paper clipped too neatly. Madeline walked in behind me, coffee in hand, eyes already scanning something on her phone. "Let's get started," Eliza said, her voice too upbeat. "We're realigning our technical roles to better reflect strategic needs." Madeline chimed in before I could speak. "Nathan, your depth is invaluable, but we need to reframe that depth. You're not just a coder. You're a compass. A compass. We're offering you a new position, special technical advisor. You'll report to me. No direct reports, no project management, just insight." I blinked. "Is this a demotion?" Madeline smiled, sharp, efficient, corporate. Lateral move. Strategic repositioning. What about compensation? There won't be a change right now, Eliza said, flipping a page. But this opens future leadership paths. Madeline nodded. You've been the backbone. But backbones don't lead. They support. I looked at both of them, trying to find one real expression. I failed. Then Madeline leaned forward. Nathan, you're a genius. But sometimes geniuses get stuck in the weeds. This role is freedom from delivery cycles, from meetings, from visibility. You'll be where you function best. Invisible. Do I have a choice? Of course, Eliza said too quickly. But we'd like an answer by Thursday, and we're already announcing the restructure Wednesday. I stood. My chair made a sound like a protest. I left without another word. No one followed. I stopped by the wall near the elevator. It was a photo wall employee of the month innovation shoutouts Culture Champions. Madeline's face dominated the center. She was typing in a terminal. I recognized the code on screen. Line for line, it was my engine's initial boot protocol. Even the comment. Don't touch this unless you're absolutely sure. I'd written that. During a 2 a.m. panic fix, while she slept. Now it was a photo shoot. I stared for too long. Long enough that someone walking by probably thought I was admiring her. But I wasn't looking at her. I was looking at who was missing. Me. I walked to the elevator. The button glowed red. I didn't press it. Not yet. I just stood there breathing through my teeth as the silence whispered back the truth I'd been too tired to face. If they don't see you now, maybe they should see you from the other side. They say systems don't lie, that logs never forget. I needed that to be true. Because everything else, titles, meetings, rewrites, memory had already been rewritten. And if I was going to claw my name back from the grave they buried it in, I'd need proof. Not stories. Not Slack messages. Proof. I opened the terminal like I was peeling off scabs. Slow, deliberate, fingers hesitating not out of fear, but out of grief. I wasn't looking for justice. I was looking for a fingerprint. The error I'd been asked to fix was simple: an API timeout caused by misconfigured rate limits. But to trace it properly, I had to dive into legacy infrastructure logs years deep, back when we barely had CI/CD, back when Madeline still used Comic Sans for internal mock-ups. I pulled the commit history. At first glance it looked clean. Too clean. Top contributor Hart. Infrasystemmigration.dev. Every critical architecture change was attributed to that alias. No names, no emails, no trace of me. Except I remembered this file. I remembered the bug I'd accidentally left in the loop, the one that caused a memory leak in 4.7. I'd patched it overnight and pushed a fix before anyone saw. Only one person ever knew about that bug, me. So I cross-referenced it against my old offline backups, drove home, pulled out the dust-coated hard drive I hadn't touched in 2 years, plugged it in, held my breath. There it was. Time-stamped commit. Author Nathan.clearaccess, dev message. Fix a recursive init error. Prevent loop overflow. Same file, same fix, same time. But someone or something had scrubbed me out of the active repo. I didn't feel rage. Not yet. Just clarity. This wasn't an accident. It was a rewrite. And I wasn't the author anymore. I used to think erasure was passive. A slow fade, missed credits, forgotten emails. Turns out it can be tactical, surgical. And now I couldn't stop remembering the first time she made me doubt my own authorship. It was 2 years ago. A Thursday. I'd emailed legal just to ask, would filing a provisional patent on a concept I authored violate company policy not submit? Just ask. The next morning I was summoned, not by legal, by Madeline. She was waiting in the corner of the cafe across from HQ, where they served espresso that smelled better than it tasted. She was already 2 sips in. She didn't greet me, just slid her phone aside and said, "Nathan, I got your message." Her tone wasn't angry. Worse, it was kind. "You don't need to do that," she said. "Filing something individually that signals distrust. We don't want people thinking our engineers don't feel supported." I said nothing. She leaned in. "Legal hates lone filings. They see it as adversarial. Trust me, you'll have a better shot if you wait and let me loop it through the right channels." I nodded. She smiled. "Good. I knew you'd understand. You're not like the others. You don't chase spotlight. You just build." I left that cafe thinking she respected me. What she respected was my silence. Later that quarter, Jamie 2, our best QA, quit. She'd spent 3 weeks trying to flag a critical regression in the new deploy. Madeline had overruled her twice, said the deadline mattered more than paranoia. After Jamie's exit interview, I found her at the parking lot. She handed me a USB drive and said, "Back up your truth. You'll need it one day." I never opened it, until last week. Turns out she kept copies of all test logs, including one where my signature lined the patch note headers, and a memo from Legal One I never saw titled IP Ownership Clarification : Module Integration Unprocessed, stamped then shelved. They never processed it, because Madeline told them not to. That night I sat with my laptop open but untouched. There's a moment in every collapse where the rubble isn't dust yet, where you can still see the beams, the angles, the joints. I wasn't ready to demolish what I'd built, but I could draft blueprints for something else. I didn't start with code. I started with the patent draft, the one I'd saved but never signed, the one filed under patents, unfiled in a folder that hadn't been touched since I still believed in team lunches and agile values. It was cleaner than I remembered, better written. The technical language was solid, the claim structure tight. I read through every line like a man trying to memorize his own name before someone stole it again. Then I signed it. Digitally. Notarized through 3 layers of timestamp and hash encryption. I saved 3 copies. One on an encrypted USB 1 in cold storage, and one printed sealed and dropped into a P.O. box under a friend's address. It wasn't vengeance, it was reclamation. Once the patent was sealed, I moved to the codebase. I couldn't use anything from the live system. But I still had my original container configs dated years back, untouched, pure. I fired up an AWS instance free tier, routed through a VPN in Oslo. Host name, Canon Printer 2030. I started building, line by line. Clean, minimal, elegant. I removed every third-party library that tied it to the clear access stack, rewrote the runtime from scratch, built a new CLI, introduced 2 new optimization layers I'd been too afraid to suggest back then. Each click felt like exhaling. By sunrise, I had a working prototype. No logos, no shared credits, no heart branding. Just the engine. Just me. I created a burner email. Nothing dramatic, just a Gmail address linked to a fake name and a throwaway number routed through a VoIP app. I wrote the message 3 times before I sent it. The subject line was simple independent orchestration IP, ownership proof attached. I attached a 1-pager summary of architecture version history, key differentiators, and a snapshot of the notarized patent draft. Then I sent it to the only company Madeline had once warned me about Nova-scale technologies. "They're vultures," she'd said. "They don't innovate, they acquire. Bottom feeders with venture capital. Exactly the kind of people who understood the value of what was stolen." I expected silence. What I got was a reply 12 minutes later. "If this is real, let's talk. We're listening. Harper Mendez, VP Engineering. No pleasantries, just signal." We scheduled a call. No video, just voice. I spoke with a low filter subtle enough to be plausible, strong enough to stall instant recognition. But Harper was sharp. 5 minutes in, she said, You sound like someone who's been ignored long enough to learn patience. I didn't confirm. She didn't press. Instead, she asked, "Can you prove authorship?" I opened the document. Read the first comment I ever wrote inside the core engine. Don't abstract this function. It fights back. She laughed. Soft. Quiet. You know, our CTO once referenced that comment at a conference. She said it was hers. I said nothing. Then she asked when I answered honestly. Because they didn't just take the code. They made sure I wouldn't exist beside it. I knew sending that email was a line I couldn't uncross. But it wasn't the reply that shook me. It was what my laptop did the next morning. It started with the fan. My laptop fan never kicked in unless I was compiling or testing builds. But it was whirring louder than any terminal justified. I ran a quick scan. Superficial. Nothing showed. So I looked deeper. Inframonitor Clear Access's internal IT tool had pushed a silent update 2 days ago. Nothing major, just new telemetry compliance flags. I decrypted the payload. It wasn't telemetry. It was surveillance. A plugin buried deep was set to track file system access, especially folders labeled patent container or anything involving external USBs. I froze. My prototype container hadn't been opened on this machine, but the draft folder had. They weren't targeting the system. They were targeting me. I disconnected immediately, pulled the drive, wiped traces with cold scripts I hadn't used since uni, changed VPNs, reflashed my AWS login under a friend's name, someone who'd passed away last year from lymphoma. His obituary was still up. It made the alias more plausible. When I came back online, I did one more thing, changed my device. Host name to Canon Printer 2030. It was a joke. But not really. Because if they were watching, they'd learn one thing: printers don't print revenge. They spool it. I was past the point of playing defense, and Harper wasn't waiting. 2 days later, she sent the real offer. No burner emails, no aliases. If I wanted to move forward, I had to sign it in my real name. The document was 24 pages. Standard NDA, IP transfer terms, revenue sharing splits. Clause 19 was the only one that mattered. Nathan Cole shall be recognized as sole original author and technical inventor of the orchestration engine, henceforth licensed to Novascale Technologies. No more hiding. No more hoping they'd remember me. I printed it. Stared at it. Didn't sign. Not yet. Instead, I walked to the Clear Access building. Sunday night. Rain on the pavement, neon in the puddles. Through the glass, I saw her. Madeline. Alone in a side room, fingers flying over the keyboard, face lit blue by dashboard metrics. She didn't look evil. She looked efficient. And I hated that. Because for a long time I thought efficiency was morality. It wasn't. It was just speed. I stood there until she looked up. She didn't see me. Of course not. She hadn't seen me in years. So I turned, walked away, went home, and signed the document, not out of rage, but because I finally remembered what it felt like to own something fully. Signing the contract didn't make me feel powerful. It made me feel visible. And visibility after years in the dark isn't a reward. It's exposure. The welcome email from Novascale came in with no fanfare, no banner, no confetti. Just one sentence that changed everything. Welcome aboard, Nathan. Your access is now live. Attached internal credential system keys and a roll tag I'd never seen next to my name before foundational architect. I'd read that phrase before in product brochures, white papers, investor decks. It was the kind of title you give to ghosts, people who'd built the scaffolding and vanished before launch. But this time, it was me. Not a shadow. Not a ghost. Me. I clicked through the portal. Sparse interface. Novascale didn't believe in overdesign. The tab said Core Deployments and nested under it. Cole Engine Runtime, Beta 1.0. My engine. Unbranded. Unaltered. Mine. I didn't even run it right away. Just stared at the identifier. It wasn't about pride. It was about oxygen. Like I'd been breathing through a straw for 6 years, and someone finally handed me a window. I spent the day rebuilding what Clear Access never let me finish. Beta 1.0 was smoother than anything I wrote under them. Cleaner, lighter. I stripped away the redundancy Madeline insisted on for visibility. I brought back the real-time routing logic they'd shelved because investors don't care about invisible wins. By midnight, it worked. Perfectly. Novascale's QA team sent me a single-line message, latency reduced 28%. Nothing broken. We're green. I closed the laptop. Not because I was done, because I needed to remember how this felt. Not sabotage, not revenge. Creation. The kind they couldn't watermark. But progress doesn't go unnoticed. And when your name finally shows up on a system again. So do the knives. She said her name was Jenna. New hire. Mid-20s. Code fluent, but only in a way that suggested she'd learned fast, not deep. She was assigned to assist with container security reviews, a routine task. The second day, she pinged me. Hey, Nathan, quick. Do you remember what security flags you used for the early boot builds at Clear Access? Might save us some time. I blinked at the message. There was no documentation on that. Not even in old logs. That knowledge was never written. Just lived. Why I replied. She answered instantly. Just trying to avoid reinventing Wheel's efficiency, right? Something was off. I checked her Slack profile. Generic. Internship at a Montreal AI lab. Bare LinkedIn. But one connection stood out. Marissa Clark, Chief Legal Officer, Clear Access. I messaged Harper. She called me 3 minutes later. No more typing, she said. Jenna's not ours. What do you mean she interned at Clear Access last year? Marissa Clark signed her letter of recommendation. We cross-checked after you flagged her question. You think they planted her? Harper exhaled. I think Madeline knows exactly how long your memory runs. She just underestimated ours. Jenna's credentials were revoked before the hour ended. Her devices collected. Her contract terminated with a single clause. Conflict of interest severity. Harper didn't celebrate. She just sent me one line they've started. Don't blink. I thought the worst they'd do was copy. Turns out they remembered how to delete. And not just me. The email came through Proton Mail. Short. Anonymous. But I recognized the typing. They're scanning old mailboxes. Mine came up. They're building a case. No sign-off. But I knew it was Jordan Singh. We hadn't spoken since he left Clear Access. He'd always been cautious, the kind of engineer who never wrote anything in Slack he wouldn't want read aloud. But he had integrity. The kind that got you quietly punished. We'd worked late nights side by side, him catching failures. I missed me covering his bug reports when QA forgot to file them properly. And now he was collateral. I sent a reply. I'm sorry. I never wanted anyone else to get caught in this. He didn't answer. 12 hours later, I got the news. Jordan had been fired. Reason violation of internal retention policies. Translation, he remembered too much. Harper confirmed it. They'd used a clause buried in Clear Access's employee manual. Anything older than 18 months required reclassification or deletion. Jordan had saved logs with my name still attached. Now he was gone. And I knew what that meant. Madeline wasn't trying to win. She was trying to wipe the board clean. Every backup, every log, every person who might remember I was there. I walked 3 blocks that night. No destination, just movement. I passed a ramen place we used to order from during deploy weeks. The window fogged. Inside, 3 engineers from Novascale huddled over noodles laughing about some test suite bug. I didn't join them. I wasn't there yet. But I would be. If I made it through this. When they start deleting it, means they've run out of ways to explain. And when they can't explain, they start whispering. The article dropped at 9:46 a.m., not from TechCrunch, not Wired, smaller, independent. But the headline hit rumor engineer behind clear access orchestration engine may have switched. Sides, no names, no quotes, just breadcrumbs. An anonymous source claimed that a senior infrastructure architect, once buried at Clear Access, had re-emerged inside a rival platform, bringing with him optimizations previously thought proprietary. The tone was cautious. The intent wasn't. They were testing the water. My phone didn't light up yet, but inside Novascale's war room, the email threads were already stacking. Investors hate smoke. Even the suggestion of fire triggers panic. By 1:00 p.m., I got a calendar invite from Elliott Vance, Borealis Capital, major backer of Novascale's Series C. The subject line, Quick 1-1, clarify IP context. No panic in his voice, just cold curiosity. You understand what this looks like, he said. I nodded. You're not denying you built it. That's clear. You're not denying they ran it. Also clear. But perception, he leaned forward, voice soft. Perception makes markets blink. I didn't try to argue. I just said I didn't leak that article. He smiled. I know. She did. Madeline. He nodded. You don't push smoke unless you're hiding ash. He stood, pulled his coat over one shoulder. I'm not against rebels, Nathan. I'm just allergic to hesitation. The door clicked shut behind him, and I understood what he'd really said. Prove you're not afraid, or we will be. Madeline had sent the first flare. Now it was her turn to step out of the shadows, and she chose the one platform designed for war-painted reputations. LinkedIn. The post landed on my feed like a thrown gauntlet. Architects of systems know that vision matters more than syntax. You don't build an ecosystem through clever loops. You build it by understanding where the logic leads. No hashtags, no links. Just a blurred-out photo of a whiteboard scribble. Mine. The outline of version 0.1. She didn't tag me. She didn't have to. The comments piled up, colleagues, founders, ex-interns, praises like visionary leadership. Clear Access continues to define orchestration. Proud to have built under this brilliance. No one mentioned my name. Harper sent me a text. This is her warning shot. What's yours? I stared at the post again. It wasn't just strategic, it was surgical. She wanted me to flinch, to react. I didn't. She was speaking in symbols and insinuations. But I didn't speak in metaphor. I built engines. And engines don't tweet. They launch. I didn't write a thread. I wrote code. Version 1. One of the engine cleaner, sharper rebuilt from line 0 over Novascale's new substrate. 3 weeks of silent sprints, overnight simulations, one-to-one testing inside a container, Harper secured with 3 layers of legal insulation. It wasn't enough to match what I'd built under Clear Access. I had to surpass it. I ripped out their old caching logic, injected a hybrid route predictor using historical latency metrics, plus AI-assisted load balancers. Nothing fancy. Nothing showy. Just brutally efficient. Then we deployed it. Soft rollout. Quiet. One client only. A fintech firm Novascale had onboarded 6 months prior, known for being ruthless with performance demands. Monday, 1:00 a.m., their latency dropped by 41%. No crashes, no rollbacks, just a log message sent by their lead engineer. What the hell did you guys do? This is surgical. We didn't reply. At 11:12 a.m., Novascale updated their internal changelog. Runtime optimization. Coal engine v1.1 confirmed stable. Deployment validated. Under-verified. By my name, no alias, no abstraction, just Nathan Cole. Someone screenshot the changelog, posted it to a private dev Discord. It leaked. Reddit caught it. A thread popped up. Hold up. Wasn't this engine part of Clear Access comment section war zone? They always said, Hart built it. I thought the CTO wrote the core. Wait, Cole, who's that check? USPTO. The patent's his. By nightfall, my LinkedIn pinged with connection requests. By midnight, Clear Access was trending. Not because of anything they said, because I stopped being invisible. They thought I'd stop at one deployment. They thought Novascale was my destination. But I wasn't trying to move on. I was preparing the stage. Because revenge isn't loud. It's precise. It started like most fires do. Quiet, inconvenient, underestimated. A blog post, published at 7:18 a.m. by Tech Fury, the kind of outlet that Canadian infrastructure engineers read before the headlines hit mainstream feeds. Not a hit piece. Not a rant. Just sharp, irrefutable questions who authored the dynamic routing layer of Clear Access's orchestration engine. Why is the name Nathan Cole associated with a runtime outperforming Clear Access by 41%? Why does USPTO filing 17334X list only one inventor? The title read, The Code. Remembers. No drama. Just facts. Facts with teeth. By 8:00 a.m., Slack threads across DevOps firms were pinging like tripwires. By 8:20, Reddit's RR Scale Stack hosted a forensic comparison of Novascale's rollout and Clear Access's production logs. Someone posted a commit history with my name watermarked across 6 key modules. Another user cross-posted a Clear Access blog from 2021 that said, "We built it. Together." The top comment replied, "No, you erased him. Together." At 9:12 a.m., a text arrived from an unknown number. "Did you really write the whole thing? Benji, one of the quiet interns, fired in the third wave of cost cuts. The kid who once stayed up fixing a deployment script I left half done. The same kid Madeline once called non-strategic headcount. He remembered. So did others." By 10 Sonoroners, my LinkedIn inbox had burst open. A rival cloud CTO posted funny how some of the best engineers disappear until their code starts outperforming press releases. Underneath a screenshot of Engine v1.1, author Nathan Cole. By noon, I'd received 167 connection requests, 3 from tech journalists, 1 from Carla Reynolds. She didn't send a message. She published a second article instead. The Ghost in the Repository. This one had range quotes from anonymous engineers describing ownership erosion. Screenshots of internal Jira threads with my initials. A visual timeline of every documented update from 2018 to 2021, all pointing to one name. Then the closing line. While Clear Access CTO Madeline Hart frequently credits herself as the architect, patent 107334X only credits Nathan Cole. That's not a rumor, that's record. At 1:30 p.m., my Novascale team's investor channel lit up like a power grid surge. By 2 hours, Clear Access disabled comments across all content platforms. At 2:15, their editorial team deleted a Medium post titled, "Madeline Hart, the mind behind modular efficiency." Too slow. Archive.org already had it. At 3:04 p.m., Harper walked into my office. No knock, no sarcasm, just her phone. A Zoom clip, time-stamped June 2021. Madeline's voice crisp as frost. This isn't about who wrote it. It's about who owns the mic when the cameras roll. No background music, no cut. Just her. On record. Saying the thing out loud. Harper met my eyes. "You ready to stop being a rumor?" I didn't nod. I opened my terminal and started typing. The article didn't end my silence. It detonated theirs. For years, they spoke over me, platforms, panels, podcasts. Now they were silent. Because when code starts talking louder than people, the narrative shifts, and no PR team can out-type a commit log. Clear Access didn't respond right away. They regrouped. For 30 hours, they said nothing. Then Madeline spoke. Not in an interview, not in a live stream, in a blog post. Polished, sanitized, wrapped in corporate velvet. Title: On Building Together, I read it 3 times waiting for an actual statement. Instead, I got this. At Clear Access, we value the collaborative innovation that powers our stack. While some contributors move on, their fingerprints remain a part of what we do. We regret any misunderstanding. Misunderstanding. That word again. The one they always used when credit was misassigned, when someone else got the raise, when your name got left off the slide deck. But this time, I wasn't the only one reading. Tech Twitter tore the post apart in 4 hours. A trending hashtag appeared. Own the code. Developers mocked the phrasing line by line. Someone overlaid it with screenshots of Jira tickets bearing my initials and the tag, Legacy Core. Then came the leak. An internal Slack message supposedly from Madeline herself, time-stamped 2 weeks before the article Nathan was a contractor. Grunt work. We shaped the real architecture. The line spread like fire on dry code. By the next morning, memes were everywhere. One showed a photo of a trench soldier labeled Nathan and a general in a chair labeled Madeline. Vision. At Novascale, Harper didn't laugh. She called legal. We compiled the patent that time-stamped commits the filing documents. We didn't release them. Not yet. Because we didn't need to shout. We just sent them quietly to TechFury, to VCs, to Clear Access's biggest clients. One of those clients was a government infrastructure contract. Sensitive, heavily compliance-driven. They reached out within hours. Is the IP ownership in dispute? Harper responded with 2 words, not on our side. The blow didn't land all at once. It unfolded like a time bomb. Clear Access began scrambling behind closed doors. At 10:44 a.m., I got an anonymous Proton Mail subject. You didn't hear this from me. Attached screenshots of internal emails from Clear Access's legal department. Key phrases: this was supposed to be buried. USPTO filing was never reviewed by exec team. CEO wants options if Madeline becomes a liability. Liability. Their golden visionary had just become a risk asset. That night, Carla Reynolds emailed me again, not asking for a quote, just a heads up. Running a piece tomorrow. We have the Zoom clip and the Slack logs. She was going in. I didn't sleep. Not because I was scared, because I knew what would come next. The next morning, the article dropped. Microphones and memory, the myth of authorial vision at Clear Access. This one didn't trend. It detonated. It opened with Madeline's Zoom quote, full transcript video embedded. Then the Slack leak. Then an appendix titled, Attribution Timeline, 2018-2023. And at the end, a line Carla didn't write for clicks. She wrote it for impact. The question isn't who built the engine. The question is how long Clear Access knew and chose silence. By 4:00 p.m., Clear Access stock dipped 9.4%. By 5:15, their head of PR locked her Twitter account. And at 6:03, I received an encrypted message from Benji's subject. She said it. I recorded it. Attachment. Zoom audio. 2221 above his voice on the recording was quiet. Madeline's was not. I'm not worried about Nathan. He signed nothing. He'll never have the guts to escalate. Besides, it's all under Clear Access now. His name's buried. That was it. Game over. She buried my name. She thought that made it over. But she forgot the most basic rule of systems design: nothing truly deletes. It just waits to be restored. The audio file wasn't long, 46 seconds. But in litigation, that's an eternity. Harper listened first, then again. She didn't say a word, just handed me her earbuds and whispered, "Press play." Madeline's voice crackled through the recording. I'm not worried about Nathan. He signed nothing. He'll never have the guts to escalate. Besides, it's all under Clear Access now. His name's buried. I didn't flinch. I didn't blink. I smiled. Because that sentence wasn't just ego. It was legal suicide. We didn't leak it immediately. Instead, we sent it strategically. One copy to Novascale's legal team. One to Carla Reynolds, encrypted with a simple line, "This ends the debate." One to ClearAccess's compliance officer. Yes, the same one who once redlined my overtime request with a smiley face. And one to their biggest investor, whose name appeared on every Series C press release. The reaction was immediate. Novascale's lawyer replied within 6 minutes. "This is a violation of IP suppression policy. You're covered." Carla sent a thumbs-up emoji and a single word, publishing. ClearAccess silence. But that silence was short-lived. The next morning, the headline hit, "Exclusive audio ClearAccess. CTO admits to burying inventor identity." The clip was embedded in the article, looped, captioned, time-stamped. Beneath it, a quote from an anonymous ClearAccess engineer. "This isn't the first time, just the first time someone fought back." Tech media devoured it. Business media followed. CBC ran a segment titled, "Canadian Startup Faces IP Crisis Over Engine Patent Dispute." Madeline's face flashed across every screen, but not alone. Side by side with mine. I wasn't a rumor anymore. I was evidence. By noon, ClearAccess stock halted trading. By 2:00 p.m., their board issued a statement. "We are initiating a full review of our internal processes and attribution protocols. Effective immediately, Madeline Hart is on administrative leave." Leave. The polite word for exile. That evening, Benji messaged me again. "You did it." I replied. "No. We did." He didn't respond. But 10 minutes later, he tweeted, "I was an intern at ClearAccess. I saw what happened. Nathan Cole wrote the core. I watched them erase him in real time. His tweet got 80K likes in 4 hours. Developers started posting under the tag, Jua built by Nathan. Someone even released a Chrome extension that replaced ClearAccess orchestration engine on any web page with Nathan Cole's stolen code. I didn't endorse it, but I didn't stop it either. Then came the pivot point. A major enterprise client, an e-health platform contracted under federal compliance, issued a statement. "Due to ongoing legal ambiguities, we're pausing all usage of ClearAccess's routing system, pending resolution." Translation, they pulled out. $16 million. Gone. ClearAccess issued a counterstatement. Dry, defensive. "We are disappointed by premature decisions based on unverified media content." But nobody believed them anymore. Their version of the truth was outdated software. Mine live code. Patented. Deployed. Documented. The final blow came 3 days later. An international cloud conference. Keynote stage. Novascale unveiling V2.2. And me, I wasn't backstage anymore. I was the one behind the mic. I stepped onto the podium to the sight of 2,000 engineers and decision makers. I didn't open with slides. I opened with this. 2 years ago, I was told the work didn't matter. That recognition was optional. That architecture was a team effort until the cameras came on. Today, I'm here to say, the code remembers. And so do we. Standing ovation. I didn't expect it, but I accepted it, because this time, no one would overwrite my name again. Victory is never clean. Not in code. Not in war. Not when silence breaks louder than applause. They fell. But the dust hadn't settled yet. And sometimes the real reckoning starts after the last line compiles. It rang once, then again. Unknown number. I almost declined until instinct said otherwise. I picked up. Silence. Then her voice. "Madeline, you've made your point." I didn't reply. "You could stop now, Nathan." Still no response. She exhaled shaky, sharp. "You think you've won, but you haven't. You just lit a fuse in a room full of oil barrels." I spoke finally. Steady. Cold. "Then why are you the one calling?" She hesitated. "Because this isn't just about credit. You think it is, but you're naive." I almost laughed. Funny. That's what you said about publishing the patch in 2021. Naive. Idealistic. Do you even remember silence again? Then a line I didn't expect. I didn't want it to be like this. I paused. Neither did I. But here we are. Then I hung up. No goodbye. No closure. Just the click of power-shifting hands. Her voice lingered in the air like corrupted cash, half-cleared, still infectious. But the world had already moved on from her words. Because facts don't fade when screenshotted, and reputations don't reboot on command. Carla didn't wait. The very next morning, TechFury dropped a 4,000-word exposé titled Inside the Culture Clear Access Erasure and the Cost of Silence. It didn't just tell my story. It told theirs every intern junior engineer co-founder pushed out quietly when Madeline didn't need them anymore. One quote hit like a punch. She said I should be grateful to even observe greatness. Another. When I asked why my name was gone from the roadmap doc, she told me I must have imagined contributing. There were emails, time logs, even a Slack screenshot where Madeline joked, "They'll forget who wrote it." They always do. The internet didn't forget. Not this time. Built by Nathan trended again this time with subtags. She didn't act alone. Interns remember. Not just one victim. But it wasn't rage that moved me. It was relief. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't the only one speaking. I was part of a chorus. Truth spreads faster than damage control. By the time Clear Access blinked, the spotlight had shifted. It wasn't about a single engine anymore. It was about how many voices they tried to silence. And suddenly, the silence wasn't working. The official statement dropped at 8:03 a.m. Effective immediately, Madeline Hart is no longer serving as Chief Technology Officer of Clear Access. We thank her for her contributions and wish her the best in future endeavors. No mention of me, no mention of the patent, just corporate speak in Helvetica. The industry didn't buy it. Comments flooded beneath the post faster than they could be deleted. What about the intern program she dismantled? Why no accountability? Wish her the best. Are you serious? At 10:12 a.m. DevCon's official account issued a statement. Due to ongoing legal inquiries, Madeline Hart will no longer be featured in our keynote programming. They pulled her completely from banners' bios, even past recorded talks. The web scrub had begun, but someone had already archived everything. A viral link titled, The Madeline Timeline. What they won't delete view, count 1.3 million and rising. Investors followed next. Black Pines Capital, one of Clear Access's major Series C backers, posted a subtle but lethal update. We are reevaluating our strategic position with Clear Access moving forward. Translated, they were pulling out. The cracks had become collapse, and for the first time since the day she took credit for my code, I didn't feel anger. I felt nothing. But even as one door slammed shut behind her, another opened for me. Not with headlines or hashtags, but with a number I didn't recognize, and an offer I never expected. Mr. Cole. The voice was crisp, polished, confident. This is Marlene Porter, managing partner at Skylane Ventures. I believe we've never spoken, but we've certainly read. I was silent. She continued. We were early backers of Clear Access. I won't sugarcoat it, we bet on the wrong founder. That's not a mistake we intend to repeat. She paused. I understand you're not looking for investors, but we'd like to change that. I stayed professional, detached. And what exactly do you think I'm building? A low chuckle? Whatever it is, it already has more integrity than what we backed. She offered a meeting, not a pitch, not a term sheet, a conversation. Harper was skeptical. It's dangerous. You take VC money, you lose control. That's how she started. Remember, I did remember. But this felt different. Because this time, I wasn't chasing resources. I was being invited. That night, I stared at a blank whiteboard in the NovaScale office, and I wrote one word in the center rebuild. Offers came in like rainfall, some genuine, some opportunistic, but none of them mattered more than the one moment no one would ever see. The office was empty. Everyone had gone home. Harper, the devs, even the night janitor who played jazz from his phone while sweeping near the server racks. I stayed. Not for a meeting, not for metrics, for something older. My bag held a laptop, not the new one, the old one. The same clunky HP machine I'd rebuilt the original routing module on back when I was still contractor grade. Back when ownership was a luxury, I didn't dare speak aloud. It booted slowly. Fan humming. Keys slightly sticky from years of coffee and neglect. I opened a folder titled Engine to Your Concepts. Inside a single file. Last modified November 2nd, 2019. File name Dreamliner Alpha.unified. I clicked. The code wasn't production ready. It wasn't even deployable. Just scaffolding. Thoughts. Hope. But halfway down, a comment stood out. One day, maybe this matters. I stared at those words. Not with nostalgia. With clarity. It did matter. Not because someone said it did. Because it lived. Because it lasted. I made one edit. Just one line. It mattered. It always did. Then I saved. Didn't publish. Didn't fork. Didn't back up. Just saved. Because some victories don't need press releases. They just need to be real. They thought revenge would consume me. They thought I'd vanish once I'd won. But legacy isn't about winning. It's about what survives you and who learns from it. DevCon smelled like coffee and ambition, same as it always had. But this year, it felt different. No Madeline banners, no modular queen hashtags, no corporate photo ops hijacked by the wrong name on the badge, just rows of engineers, quiet energy, whiteboards already full by 9 a.m. NovaScale had a booth this time. Tucked in near the edge, no flashy signage, no gimmicks. Just clean UX on a screen and a QR code linking to open documentation. I wasn't keynote. I wasn't even on stage. I just watched. Unseen. Free. A young woman lingered at the booth. Maybe 22. Bright jacket. Scraped laptop. The kind of techie who doesn't talk much, just builds. She looked at the codebase on display, our new routing protocol. Then she looked at me. Hesitation. Then, "You're Nathan." "Right?" I nodded. "Your repo, the old one. It taught me more than my entire boot camp." I didn't know what to say. She smiled. I just wanted to say thanks. She left. No selfie, no awkward pitch, just gratitude. And for the first time in a long time, I believed the work was worth it. The noise of DevCon faded by nightfall, but some messages echo long after the crowd disappears, and sometimes the ones that hit hardest don't come from fans. They come from family, even if they're not yours. Subject thank you, from Benji's mum. It stopped me cold. The inbox had been a war zone lately. Pitches, partnerships, press. But this wasn't about code. It was about consequence. Her words were careful, typed slow. Proofread 3 times, I could tell. "You don't know me, Nathan. I'm Benji's mum. He interned at Clear Access a while back. Left after, well, you know why." I did. He doesn't talk about that time. Not much. Just says it made him forget why he loved computers. That hurt more than Madeline ever did. But then your name started popping up. Blog posts, articles. He watched your talk, read the repo. She attached a photo. Benji, standing in front of a tiny projector screen at a community tech night, teaching routing logic to teens. Caption, "My son believes in code again." I didn't cry, but I did close my laptop and just sat there. Because this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about returning something to the people they tried to break. Praise fades. Impact stays. But with impact comes pressure. And not all pressure is honest. Some of it wears a tie and offers you a bigger boat just so they can steer it. Harper's office smelled like dried coffee and fresh risk. She pushed a printed deck across the table. If we take Skylane's offer, we triple the team by next quarter. I stayed quiet. They're ready to invest. They want us to scale Novascale into the next cornerstone cloud platform. Still quiet. She leaned forward. But they also want a seat at the roadmap, and eventually at the commit level. That's where I looked up. So we go big, but maybe not our way. Harper nodded. They're not Madeline, but they're still them. The room felt small, the air heavier than it should have been. I looked out the window. It had started to snow. No drama, just quiet flakes against the glass. Then I spoke. We don't become them. Then what do we become? Smaller. Better. Focused. She didn't argue. She smiled. Good. I was hoping you'd say that. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it felt like the first time we were really choosing. Not reacting. Not surviving. Just building. Our way. There are two kinds of endings. The ones that break clean, and the ones that smolder quietly until someone puts out the last ember. It was late. The city dimmed. Not asleep, just quieter than usual. I sat alone in my apartment, lights off, laptop on. Not the new one. The old one. The survivor. It still had the duct-taped hinge, the cracked port cover, the boot time of a tired mule. But it also had something no server ever matched, Galwana memory. I opened a drawer, pulled out a USB stick, labeled in faded Sharpie clear access logs, do not erase inside everything, commit history, Slack exports, meeting notes, audio clips, the truth, all of it. Proof, leverage, insurance. I stared at it for a long time. Then I stood up, walked to the fireplace, tossed it in, watched it burn. Not because I had to, because I was done. Done with looking back, done with stockpiling proof, done with legacy that only existed to defend me. I didn't need defense anymore. I had code, live, evolving, unstoppable. And I had a team who'd never asked me to vanish to make room for their name. Outside, snow kept falling. Quiet. Relentless. Beautiful. Just like us. They told me to let it go. That fighting back would make me bitter. That no one would care who really wrote the code. They were wrong. Now you know what happened. Now you've seen what silence costs, and what truth can do when it gets out. So if this story made you pause, if you've ever watched someone take your work and call it theirs, don't scroll past. Like this video. Drop a comment. Share it with someone who needs to remember they're not invisible. And if you want more stories like this of reclamation, not just revenge, hit that subscribe button, because I'm not done speaking, and neither are you.